you are in the right place at the right time, because this is the time to make a difference, to make things happen. Talking Ability Now, and my name is Sue Roscoff. This is part of the World of Ability podcast network, and I'm telling you, I could not be more excited, pleased, proud, and honored to be introducing our host of Ability Now, Cece Carr. Cece, how you doing?
I am so grateful and thankful. And first of all, I want to thank Ability Now. I want to thank you, Sue, and Kurt Roscoe for allowing me to have the opportunity to share in this podcast. And I know someone's going to learn something from the experiences that I've been sharing for a couple of years now. And I just want to say thank you to everyone else who's on the podcast who actually supports the Ability Now podcast, the World of Ability, and the many different shows that they have on Ability Now. So I've been doing this podcast for a few years now. It's the first Saturday of the month, and it's supposed to start at 5 p.m. Eastern time, Standard Time or 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I also want to acknowledge Emily for her engineering background, podcast engineering, and for the service that she provides. And thank everybody out here for your presence, because it does matter. And so today I'm still talking about avocation, avocation for essential services. I'm still talking about um, ability, the ability to do all things. For years, I have done what people told me to do. One of the things that I've done was I wrote letters, I filed complaints, I visited many different churches, platforms, the water company, the city of Conyers, Rockdale Water Resources, Rockdale County representatives, Rockdale appraisers, Board of Equalization, RHOA board members. I've documented many events along with pictures. I followed procedures, waited for agencies and institutions to act. What I've learned is the evidence alone does not always produce action. Sometimes systems remain unchanged, not because the facts are unclear, but because accountability is not present. Today, this conversation is not about attacking anyone. It's not about assigning motives or reliving every detail. It's about explaining what prolonged loss of essential services, loss of potable water, loss of sanitary services, long-term deprivation, essential services feels like in real life. When access to water is interrupted, daily living becomes survival. Basic tasks become obstacles. How do you wash your hands? How do you even wash your behind? How do you even wash your dishes? This is not just days, months. It's become years. The uncertainty affects every area of life. For clarity, I want to state this carefully and actually. I contacted the city of Conyers, including city council meetings, city council members, city administration, and city attorney's offices, as well as Rockdale Water Resources, as well as Rockdale County commissioners, chairwoman, as well as the administration. I've contacted Georgia Public Service Commission, also the Georgia Department of Insurance, Travelers Insurance, Liberty Mutual Insurance, Twin City Insurance Company, the Hartford, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Rockdale County District Attorney's Office, PHH Mortgage Services, now Onity Services, Onity, I guess, as they change their name, Newrez, Auckland, what have you. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, the U.S. Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and other agencies, Adult Protective Services. In some cases, communications were directed to named officials acting strictly in their official capacities, which is part of a public record. I am not here to accuse individuals. This is not a civil matter. This is not a civil dispute. I'm not here to speculate about intent. I am describing documented outreach, documented receipt, and the lengthy periods of silence that follow. Everything shared today is based upon written notices, public records, correspondence, photographs, reports, and verified documentation. Based on public record, that's my other phone. It got broke, got run over by a car. The documented, these are all documented. Viewpoint East Condominiums Association Board did not complete the level of due diligence that would normally be expected before actions affecting essential services, water and sanitation services, such as water, were undertaken. I am not alleging motive or intent. I am describing the absence of documented verification, lawful authorization, no permits, no approvals, and other records that would ordinarily be expected before decisions impacting essential potable water services and sanitation services are implemented. The issue is not about blaming individuals. The issue is how failures of governance, local governance, oversight, and due diligence can produce real world consequences to residents. Potable water, clean water, sanitation services require verification, accountability, lawful authorities, police department were notified, and their oversight. This is not a civil matter. It's not even matter of fact, it's not even an HOA dispute. This is a felony to deprive anybody of potable water services and sanitation services. They require accountability. Ain't nobody being accountable. So let's think about that. What are those safeguards? When the safeguards that's supposed to be in place fail, residents bear the consequences. People often say, why don't you just sue? Well, suing does not always produce what you want. Okay? The answer is simple. Litigation is designed to address harm after it occurs. It is expensive, time consuming, and often inaccessible without substantial resources. Before considering litigation, I followed the process people are encouraged to follow. I documented, I reported, everybody was notified in writing, requested review. I even sought correction through administrative channels. What this experience has taught me is that many systems do not respond until legal deadlines, regulatory intervention, or court orders force action. That reality is difficult to understand until it is personally experienced. Everyone deserves safe, habitable housing. Everybody deserves public, potable water services and sanitation services. Everyone deserves access to essential services. Everyone deserves a system that responds before people are exhausted. I am standing. I'm still standing. I am documenting. I'm still documenting. I am seeking answers. I'm still seeking answers. Most importantly, I am speaking openly so others understand that when they encounter prolonged silence, pushback, prolonged pushback, they are not imagining it. They are not alone. And they have every right to demand accountability, transparency, and action. Congressmen were notified. Congressman John Ossoff's offices, Congressman Raphael Warnock, state representatives, Rhonda Taylor. The property God blessed me with is in District 13. David Scott has passed away, so therefore his office has not done its due diligence. They still have constituent services that's supposed to be doing the work. So on top of that, my voice will be heard. So I'm going to stop my video now and I'm still going to talk. Somebody really want to talk to me, but the phone don't turn on. Phone don't turn on. So I'm going to have to just turn it on. But I have a background in, I was trying to stop the video. I have a background in law enforcement investigations. I went to school for report writing. Just imagine waking up one morning and discover your water is gone. The home is no longer livable. The business was shut down. Every agency points somewhere else for answers. Now imagine refusing to give up Welcome to the conversation, y'all. My name is Cece Carr, and together we are exposing challenges. We're uncovering solutions, and we're giving a voice to the stories that are too often unheard or dismissed. Some people read about disaster, especially the one that happened in Conyers, Georgia, September 29, 2024. BioLab had a chemical fire, released corrosive chemical compounds, and there was a chemical plume. Conyers, Georgia, September 29, 2024. Well, the insurance companies did not take care of its people. They denied all the claims. To my house it was, and my house is located in Conyers, Georgia. When life changes without warning, faith becomes more than words. It becomes a lifeline. I am Cece Carr, and this is a place where perseverance, purpose, truth, and hope come together to encourage, educate, and inspire. Not everyone begins their story with success. Some begin with loss, obstacles, unanswered questions, and determination to keep moving forward. My name is Cece Carr. These are the conversations that matter. Excuse me. And I'm not just the face of what obstacles are. More importantly, I am speaking openly so that others understand that when they encounter prolonged silence, denials, they are not imagining it. They are not alone, and they have every right to demand accountability. Being accountable means honoring your word. What is the strength and encouragement that you can create during times such as this? When you have pushback, then you know you're in the right direction. When someone does something that's not right, you forgive. You can always pray. One of the prayers that I say a lot is, Father, you are the provider and source of all good things. Your word declares that the wealth of the sinner, the wealth of the wicked, is laid up for the just. You, God, are the one who grants wisdom, favor, discernment, knowledge, faithful stewardship. God is the only one who opens doors that no man can shut. God is the one that restores what has been lost or what was lost. God is the one that establishes the work of your hands, our hands, because every resource assigned to any purpose, that God's purpose, must come forth in divine timing. Let justice, provision, increase, and restoration manifest according to God's word. Let righteousness prevail, truth be revealed, and every promise be fulfilled. This is all in the name of Jesus Christ. There's a scripture that there are many scriptures I chose to stand on. The righteous shall inherit the land and dwell therein forever. That's Psalms 27:29. Job even said this in 27:16 and 7. Though he heap up silver as the dust, the just shall put it on, and the innocent shall divide the silver. Isaiah 61:6 says, Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory they shall boast yourselves. Deuteronomy 6:10-11. Houses full of good things, which thou fillest now. Wells digged, which thou diggest not. Vineyards and olive trees, which thou plantest not. These are blessings that God provides, provisions, inheritance, and transfer of resources. Proverbs 28:8. He that by usury and unjust gain increases his substance, he shall gather it for him that will pity the poor. Ecclesiastes 2:26. For God giveth to a man that is good in the sight, his sight, wisdom and knowledge and joy. But the sinners but the sinners he giveth travail together and to heap up, that he may give to him that is good before God. Psalms 105:44. And gave them the lands of the heathen, and they inherited the labor of the people. So today, Proverbs 13:22 says, A good man, a good woman leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Proverbs 13:22. What I'm saying is these circumstances surrounded that I've been talking about. So this is circumstance surrounding termination, ongoing termination, and disruption of potable water and sewer services. It began way before January 17, 2023. If you think about it, that's been years. And the more letters that I write, it seems like nothing is happening, but it is. Because I requested an independent forensic engineer evaluation on the multiple properties. It's 1504B, 1504C, Pine Log Road, Conyers, Georgia. This is all related to external common element infrastructure serving multiple buildings of Viewpoint East Condominium Community. That's 1450 Pine Log Road, Conyers, Georgia. It's also on Google as, I think, 1472 Pine Log Road, Conyers, Georgia. The purpose of the evaluation is to determine the origin, cause, extent, duration, and consequences of continuous infrastructure failure that have resulted in prolonged loss of public water, sewer functionality, sanitation services, habitability, business operations, and property use. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And when you think about it, it's more than just me without basic necessities. It's lots of people. And when you think about it, there's questions. I've had a lot of questions. I'm going to publish a book of evidence. See if nobody want to listen to me. One thing that stands out in the book, I didn't keep thousands of pages. I investigated and documented with thousands of pages of documents because complex situations really fit in a one page. They said, well, he gave us a report. Well, how do you tie everything else together? Unless you put photographs that show damages, the emails that were sent. A single email may show notice. A single report may show findings. But when you place them all together in chronological order, a much larger picture begins to emerge. Patterns become visible. Timelines become clear. Repeated notice becomes evidence. Contradictions become easier to identify. Documentation allows people to see not only what has happened, but when it happened and how it happened. So the timeline itself becomes evidence. Absolutely. Many, many situations. Who knew what? This what it says. Who knew what? When did they know it? What actions were taken? What actions were not taken? What was communicated? What was ignored? The timeline answers many of those questions. How important was organization? Even though I was displaced, organization was critical. When you have 10,000 pages of documents, but if they are disorganized, they become difficult to use. I learned to organize records by category: insurance, utilities, photographs, engineering reports, environmental records, government correspondence, mortgage servicing records, including 1098s, medical records, business interruption records. Each category tells a part of the story. Together, they tell a complete story. Let's talk about displacement from a financial perspective. Many people assume displacement simply means staying somewhere temporarily, but realities they do not see. They didn't see the hidden costs: hotel expenses, storage expenses, transportation expenses, food expenses, laundry expenses, business interruption, loss of productivity, loss of opportunities, replacement items, medical expenses. The financial impact can become overwhelming. Displacement often creates expenses that were never anticipated. These are questions that people are asking me. Did I discover that displacement affects every area of life? Yes, displacement affects every area of life. It's just not compartmentalized. It follows you everywhere. It affects your work, your thinking, it affects your sleep, it affects your health, it affects your relationship, it affects your concentration, it affects your emotional well being. People often think displacement ends when you leave the property.
In reality, displacements travels with you. My book is it discusses dignity. Why is dignity such an important thing? Dignity is important because every person deserves to be treated with dignity regardless of circumstances. When people experience housing instability, utility loss, water loss, sanitation service loss, disaster recovery issues, or prolonged displacement, they begin to feel invisible. The loss is not just only physical, it can be emotional and psychological. Maintaining dignity becomes part of the recovery process. What does dignity look like during difficult circumstances? It looks like this: continuing to advocate for yourself, continue to tell the truth, continuing to preserve records, continuing to maintain hope, continuing to believe your situation matters, continuing to recognize your own worth. That means you ain't got to shack up, do anything to keep your dignity. What role does resilience play in my journey? Resilience becomes a daily choice. Some days, resilience look like organizing paperwork. Some days it look like attending doctor's appointments. Sometimes it look like writing letters. Sometimes it look like simply refusing to quit. Resilience is often less dramatic than people imagine. Sometimes resilience is just showing up another day. Many people facing difficult situations become discouraged when they receive denials or unfavorable responses. What advice would I give them? My advice is don't never quit, because God don't never quit on you. Don't confuse a denial with the end of the story, because it ain't over. A denial is information. A denial may identify additional evidence is needed. A denial may identify all unresolved questions. A denial may identify procedural issues. Always read carefully. Always preserve the response. Always document the next step. Persistence matters. I got a surprise for y'all during the writing of this book. A number of people who showed kindness. We often focus on obstacles, but when there are people who listen, people who offered encouragement, people who answered questions, people who shared their testimonies, people who showed compassion, people who helped preserve records, people who prayed, people who supported me in ways they would never fully realize. The book documents challenges, but it also documents kindness. That's the power, because evidence is always associated with problems. You're suggesting evidence can also document support. Exactly. Evidence can document truth in all forms, not just failures, not just losses, not just conflicts. Evidence can document courage, compassion, service, faithfulness, generosity, humanity. I have another question. What do you hope future readers, learn from the Book of Evidence? I really hope they learn that ordinary people can preserve extraordinary records. You can actually produce extraordinary records. You don't have to be an attorney. God is your attorney. You don't have to be an investigator. God is your investigator. You don't even have to be a journalist. You simply have to be a diligent. Over little, God will bless you with much. Save documents, take pictures, write notes, preserve correspondence, maintain timelines, protect evidence. These simple actions can be impactful and important later. This creation of the book changed me personally. Yes, this book has taught me patience, perseverance. Really, God taught me the value of documentation. God taught me the importance of faith. Most importantly, He taught me that truth is worth preserving, regardless of the outcome, regardless of obstacles. Truth deserves a record. I often say this problem was bigger than one property. What did I mean by that? I mean that displacement, long term displacement, affects communities across the country. Don't think the police officer weren't affected by my reports. They were. Infrastructure failure happens. Natural disasters happen. Environmental incidents happen. Insurance disputes happen. Housing issues happen. The lessons contained in my mind may help someone else facing a completely different situation. If readers learn how to document evidence, preserve records, and advocate for themselves, then the book of evidence serves a purpose beyond my own experience. When people pick up the book of evidence, what should they expect? They should expect documentation, photos, letters, reports, timelines, correspondence, letter, public documents, personal reflection, maybe not that much, and ultimately a continuous story about perseverance, a story about maintaining faith during adversity, a story about refusing to allow important facts to disappear, a story about persevering truth for future generations. Do I believe documentation itself can become a form of empowerment? Absolutely. Documentation creates clarity. Documentation creates accountability. Documentation creates history. Documentation produces truth. Documentation preserves truth. And when people preserve truth, they preserve part of their voice. Sometimes a document speaks long after the conversation has been forgotten. That's why evidence matters. That's why evidence matters. That's why records matter. And that's why this book exists. So it is 5:39. I was getting sleepy over here. But I can tell you this. I ain't too sleepy to talk about displacement, dignity in the book of evidence, and how I'm so grateful, and how I will continue to welcome people to come and listen to the podcast. I'm discussing subjects that impacts thousands of people across America, but often remains hidden from public truth. This is long-term displacement, homelessness, habitability failures, loss of essential services, potable water, sanitary services, and the importance of documenting evidence when systems fail. My name is Cece Carr. I'm the creator of the Book of Evidence, a document style, which is documentary, which is really a compilation of records, photos, emails, letters, reports, and personal testimony document years of challenges involving property conditions, displacement, fraud, and the struggle to be heard. Nobody likes to be dismissed, not even me. So thank you for joining us. I'm thankful to be here, continuing. I appreciate the opportunity to share my story and hopefully help others who may be facing similar housing issues. Many people hear the word displacing and immediately think of natural disasters or war. What does displacement mean to you or your situation? Displacements occurs whenever a person loses the practical ability to safely live in their home. It can happen because of natural disasters. Biolab in Conyers, Georgia was one. It can happen because of infrastructure failure. It can happen because of environmental contamination, potable water and sewer sanitation disruptions, fires, floods, or other condition that makes a property unsafe or unstable. For me, displacement was not a single event. It became a prolonged experience involving loss of public potable water and sanitation services, habitability concerns, environmental issues, and the ability to safely occupy property that God blessed me to own. It had a major effect on my daily life. Everything changes. Something as basic as taking a shower, a bath, washing dishes, flushing the toilet, cooking food, my baking business, sleeping comfortably, receiving mail, storing business records, or simply feeling secure becomes a challenge. People often underestimate how much dignity is connected to having reliable access to basic necessities. What is the emotional impact? The emotional impact can be devastating. I've experienced uncertainty, frustration, grief, exhaustion, and many times isolation. You spend countless hours trying to explain situation to agencies, insurance agents, insurance adjusters, contractors, governmental officers, lenders, friends and family, service providers. And sometimes I felt like I was fighting to prove what I was experiencing was real. That's why when nobody was listening, God blessed me to be inspired to create a book. A realization that memory fades, but documentation remains. When situations continue for months and years and years and years, people forget conversations. Employees change their jobs, they get promoted out of there. Records seem to disappear, but I had a copy. Agency transfer files. The evidence becomes the truth. I began collecting documents, emails, photographs, inspection reports, invoices, utility records, insurance communication, and public records. Eventually, I realized I was just collecting paperwork. This is the day that the Lord has made. I am rejoicing. I am being glad in this day. I was like, oh, Lord. So, one thing that I want to leave you with Galatians 6 and 9. And let us not be weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. I want to thank the listeners for tuning in. Remember, facts matter, documentation matters. And every story, every testimony deserves to be heard. I want to thank everybody who listens today or on another time, whenever this recording. Um, they can find my book on Amazon. They can follow future documentary projects that focus on the truth, accountability, resilience, and faith. They can continue to provide support. I wouldn't mind financial support. I do have Cash App. And just to support all the different ministries, including AbilityNow, because we're learning. I'm talking about displacement from a financial perspective. There's a widespread of unhoused people. How do you make it through that? You make it having faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. What I can say is give God thanks in all things. When your financial institutions don't do the right thing means having integrity, even if you don't want to. There should have been a restoration process already done by now. But what I can say is, I don't have no quit. I don't have a spirit of fear, power, love, and a sound mind. And I just can continuously thank God. What does fraud look like? Fraud looks like this. Any misrepresentation, any conversion, any unauthorized retention of funds, deceptive practices, fraud, negligence, and other actionable conduct occurred. Services not performed consistent with the representations made. Disposition of funds after deposit. The recipient of funds, the financial institution that process each transaction, the date in which the instrument was negotiated. Is it cashier checks? A number of cashier's checks have been issued to multiple agencies, meaning Viewpoint East condominiums, meaning PHH Mortgage Services, meaning Sherry Washington, who's a former attorney, never provided services, meaning she was also Rockdale County Commissioners. That includes all the other ones connected. Available information raises concerns regarding the purpose for funds that were obtained, representation associated from those funds, services promises or expected and never performed, services that were not performed, but let's say they were performed and did not do its due diligence. Accounting of funds. It's called theft by deception. Disposition of funds and compliance with applicable fiduciary, contractual, ethical, professional banking, consumer protection, and local retention records. Where are the audit logs? Where are the case management records? Where are the calendars, notes, text messages, electronic communications, accounting ledgers, trust account records, retainer agreements, invoices, bank transaction history, wire transfer records, internal communications, client files, copy of cashier's checks, front and back images of negotiated instruments, endorsements, and signatures. Where are the deposit records? This is what documentation does. Submit to document concerns regarding multiple cashier's checks, negotiation of funds, receipt of funds, representations made concerning services, and subsequent handling of matters associated with payments, all those payments. Explain to me why I'm even writing any report. Documentation to document. This is something else. All I can do is say, who are the players? Fraudulent activity. This is all documented, and it will continue to be documented. God got a way of escape for his children. I ain't never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. Continue to pray for people. Continue to give thanks to God. Continue to praise God. Ooh. They have already, Navy Federal has already denied and refused to investigate. Already asked for escalation, the matter to the appropriate regulator. I requested written explanation of the denial. They just send this old generic response. They not even putting the evidence, but that's okay. It's not okay. But my response is you have a due diligence not to redirect me anywhere. There was a check, cashier's check, Sherry Washington, multiple, multiple hundreds. What I could say is God supplies all of our needs according to his riches and glory. I just know that he is the provider of everything. My written communications were directed to named officials. Wow. I was getting sleepy over here, y'all. I've been talking for a whole, almost hour. But hopefully this will be food for someone. Food to say what the record shows is that Viewpoint East condominiums, HOA board, did not verify the basics. They should have verified before decisions were made about deprivation of public potable water services. I'm not saying why, just that the due diligence isn't there in the documentation. This isn't about blaming individuals. It's about how the lack of due diligence at the governance level can have real consequences for the residents. This is still the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. When the water stops, a unified inspector general complaint on drinking water, Americans with Disability and Habitability. The general complaint, Inspector General complaint submitted to AEA, DOJ, and HUD regarding the prolonged deprivation and loss of potable water and sewer services beginning on and or about January 17, 2023 at multiple residents, condominium residents within 1504 Pine Log Road, Conyers, Georgia, 30012. The matter raises environmental health risk, habitability failure, ADA, Title II, concerns affecting a disabled residents, and supervisory non-action after notice. I'll put my face back on for the last 2 minutes. So, I just want to say, Americans with Disability Accommodations is requested, as well as Americans with Disability notice that everything be provided in writing via email, kcarco@gmail.com, or via fax, secondary contact. So, documentation has continued. We need drinking water. We need to do hashtag environmental health. We need to do hashtag ADA compliance, hashtag habitability, hashtag Inspector General, hashtag public accountability, hashtag disability rights. You would consider documentations is important. It's your witness. This involves environmental health risk, habitability failures. This has been ongoing. So we're going to continue to pursue God, pursue justice, pursue wisdom at our properties. So thank you again, everyone. It is 6 o'clock and I am past sleeping. I need a nap. And I just gonna be continually thanking God, giving God the glory, giving God the praise. I took this today, today. I got copies of checks. This is considered fraud. See the date. Copies of checks. They've had opportunity. Sherry, you got the opportunity to pay me back. This happened in 2021. It's okay to pay me back. I wouldn't mind. But if you don't want to, it's still a felony to steal money under the Americans with Disability Act. And I've been writing it for years. So y'all, see y'all next month. Hopefully I'll be around. It'll be 4th of July. The public needs to know about environmental health risks, habitability failure. They need to know about oversight review, record preservation, corrective actions, and more. What I just say is thank you. I need to take a nap now, y'all. It's 6:02 and I'm gonna have to go. Thank y'all for the time. Bye, Sue and Kurt and Emily and everybody else. Good night, everyone. Today is June 6, 2026. And I had a good time. Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you so much, Cece, for all you're doing with all these efforts. God bless you and all your progression as things move forward. This again is Cece with AbilityNow podcast, and my name is Sue Roskoff with World of Ability Podcast Network.